A simple act of kindness changed everything. The morning rush at Bella's Corner Cafe was in full swing when Sarah noticed him standing by the entrance, scanning the packed room with tired eyes. A tall man with dark, slightly disheveled hair held the hand of a little girl who couldn't have been more than 4 years old. The child's blonde curls bounced as she looked around with wide, curious eyes, clutching a worn stuffed rabbit against her chest. Sarah watched as they approached table after table, only to be met with apologetic shakes of heads or deliberately averted gazes. The businessman at the corner table pretended to be deeply engrossed in his newspaper. The group of college students claimed they were expecting friends. Even the elderly woman by the window simply pointed to her purse on the empty chair across from her. Something about the man's gentle patience with his daughter, the way he bent down to whisper reassuring words when her face began to fall, stirred something in Sarah's chest. She was sitting alone at a table for 4, her laptop open, nursing her second cup of coffee while working on a freelance graphic design project. The deadline wasn't until next week, and honestly, the cafe's bustling energy was more distracting than helpful for her concentration anyway. Without overthinking it, Sarah closed her laptop and waved them over. "Excuse me," she called softly, catching the man's attention. "You're welcome to share my table if you'd like." The relief that washed over his face was immediate and profound. "Are you sure? We don't want to impose. Emma here just really wanted to come to a real cafe like the grown-ups." He smiled down at his daughter, who was now peeking shyly at Sarah from behind his legs. "Of course. I'm Sarah, and I'd love the company." She gestured to the empty chairs around her table. "What's your name, sweetie?" she asked, directing her question to the little girl. "Emma," came the whispered response, followed by a slightly braver, "This is my daddy, Marcus." As they settled in, Sarah couldn't help but notice the quality of Marcus's clothes, expensive, well-tailored, but wrinkled as if he'd slept in them. His watch was clearly high-end, though his overall appearance suggested someone who hadn't had much sleep. Emma, despite her shy demeanor, was dressed in beautiful clothes that looked like they came from the finest children's boutiques. "What can I get you too?" Sarah asked, flagging down the waitress she knew well. Marcus began to protest that they could order themselves, but Sarah waved him off. "My treat. Emma, do you like hot chocolate?" The little girl's eyes lit up like Christmas morning. "With marshmallows?" "Extra marshmallows," Sarah confirmed with a grin. "And how about some of their famous blueberry pancakes? They're shaped like Mickey Mouse." As they waited for their order, conversation flowed surprisingly easily. Emma gradually warmed up, showing Sarah her stuffed rabbit, Mr. Hopper's, and chattering about how they were on a big adventure with Daddy. Marcus seemed grateful for the distraction, though Sarah noticed the way his eyes occasionally darted to his phone with a worried expression. "Daddy's been very busy," Emma confided in Sarah, her voice dropping to a stage whisper. "He has lots of important meetings, but today he said we could have a special day together." Marcus's cheeks reddened slightly. "Emma, you don't need to." "It's okay," Sarah interrupted gently. "We all have busy seasons in life. What matters is that you're here now, making time for what's really important." Something in Marcus's expression shifted, surprise, perhaps, or recognition. "You know, I've been so caught up in, well, everything lately. Emma deserved this day out, and honestly, I needed it too." Their food arrived, and Sarah watched with delight as Emma's face transformed at the sight of the Mickey Mouse pancakes. The little girl insisted on sharing bites with both Sarah and her father, sticky syrup making her fingers gleam as she chattered between mouthfuls about her favorite cartoons, her toy collection, and how Mr. Hopper's was the bravest rabbit in the whole world. "What do you do, Sarah?" Marcus asked during a brief lull in Emma's animated storytelling. "I'm a graphic designer. Mostly freelance work, logos, websites, marketing materials for small businesses. Nothing too glamorous, but I love the creativity of it." She stirred her coffee thoughtfully. "What about you?" Marcus hesitated for a moment. I work in business development. Lots of meetings, like Emma mentioned. He smiled ruefully. I'm afraid it's not nearly as interesting as graphic design. Sarah sensed there was more to the story, but she didn't press. Everyone had their reasons for privacy, and she was content to enjoy the present moment, watching Emma's joy as she discovered that the cafe had coloring sheets and crayons, listening to Marcus's genuine laughter as his daughter regaled them with elaborate stories about Mr. Hopper's adventures. An hour passed without Sarah realizing it. Her laptop remained closed, her work forgotten in favor of this unexpected connection. Emma had gradually migrated from her chair to lean against Sarah's arm as she colored, completely at ease with this kind stranger who had welcomed them so warmly. Sarah, Emma said suddenly, looking up with those bright, earnest eyes, you're really nice. Can we be friends? The simple question hit Sarah unexpectedly hard. In her busy freelance life, working mostly from home, she'd realized she'd become quite isolated. When was the last time someone had wanted to be her friend with such straightforward sincerity? I would love that, Emma, she replied, meaning every word. Marcus watched this exchange with something like wonder in his expression. Emma doesn't warm up to people easily, he said quietly. She's been through some changes lately. Her mother and I divorced 6 months ago, and it's been an adjustment for all of us. I'm sorry to hear that, Sarah said softly. Transitions are hard, especially for little ones. The custody arrangement means I only get her on weekends now, Marcus continued, his voice carrying a weight of emotion. I want to make every moment count, but sometimes I feel like I'm fumbling through it all. Sarah looked at Emma, who was now completely absorbed in coloring what appeared to be a rainbow-maned unicorn. You know what I see? I see a dad who brought his daughter somewhere special because she asked. I see a little girl who feels safe and loved enough to share her breakfast and her stories with strangers. I think you're doing better than you realize. For a moment, Marcus looked as if he might tear up. Instead, he cleared his throat and smiled. Thank you. For the table, for breakfast, for... He gestured vaguely, encompassing the warmth of the past hour. For reminding me that there are still genuinely kind people in the world. As they prepared to leave, Emma insisted on giving Sarah a picture she'd colored, the unicorn, now complete with a background of flowers and hearts. This is for you, she announced solemnly, because you shared your table and you have a nice smile. Sarah accepted the drawing as if it were a priceless work of art. This is beautiful, Emma. I'll treasure it. Marcus pulled out his wallet to leave a tip for the waitress, and Sarah caught a glimpse of several credit cards, all bearing the name Marcus Blackstone. The name tugged at her memory, she was certain she'd heard it somewhere before, in connection with some major business deal or charity event, but she couldn't place it exactly. Before we go, Marcus said, seeming to make a decision, would you like to exchange numbers? Emma would love to see you again, and honestly, so would I. Maybe we could plan another cafe adventure sometime. Sarah's heart warmed at the invitation. I'd like that very much. As they exchanged contact information, Marcus hesitated, then added, Sarah, I hope this isn't presumptuous, but do you have business cards? I might know some people who could use a talented graphic designer. That's very thoughtful, but you don't need to. I want to, he interrupted gently. Today you showed kindness to a stranger and his daughter without expecting anything in return. That's rare, and it deserves to be recognized. 3 days later, Sarah's phone rang with an offer to design the marketing materials for a major charity gala, a project that would pay more than she usually made in 3 months. When she asked how they'd gotten her name, the caller mentioned it was a recommendation from Marcus Blackstone, one of the city's most prominent philanthropists and the CEO of Blackstone Enterprises. Sarah stared at her phone after the call ended, pieces clicking into place. Marcus Blackstone, she'd seen his name in the newspaper's business section, heard about his company's innovative technologies and charitable donations. Emma's father wasn't just well-dressed, he was one of the wealthiest men in the city. Yet in that crowded cafe, he'd simply been a tired father wanting to give his daughter